Hi, I'm Greg, and this is Technique Tuesday at Elusive Recording Studio. So today's Technique Tuesday is all to do with gain structure. I've seen the question asked quite a lot on some of the forums, so I thought I'd have a go at giving it an answer. And it's to do with, how to set up the optimal level into your interface or your preamp or, anything else, and that can be from a line level instrument, like a synthesizer or a drum machine, a vocal, a drummer, or guitars or anything like that. So because the process is pretty much the same regarding no matter what instrument or signal you're recording. And then I'm also going to show you how changing your gain structure and driving preamps on an analog desk can radically change the tone. So some of it is going to work ideal if all you have is an interface, and some of it's going to go beyond that if you have access to an external preamp and or a mixing desk. So join me on the Pro Tools session and I'll show you how we do it. Here we have our Pro Tools session, and I am going to be using a software version of a pretty well-known synthesizer by Arturia. And we're going to imagine this is an external synthesizer and we are trying to record it. So at the moment, I've taken this to go out of my interface and go straight into the first channel on my desk. So that is what we're going to do. So just imagine it's an external synthesizer that I've plugged in, and I'm going to talk you through what we are doing. So let's go to the camera, and I'm going to solo the instrument. So to begin with, this is the channel we were looking at in question, and we have a volume fader, we have mute, we have some other controls, but really the only ones that we're interested in today are the gain and also a PFL, which we'll look at in a second, and our fader. So I'm going to press play, and this desk has metering that is pre-fade. So even with this volume fader down, we can still see a signal, but I'm going to press the PFL button, which stands for pre-fade listen, and I'm going to bring this in. And now we can start to hear the audio, but we can see it's quite quiet. So I'm going to come up to my gain, and I'm going to increase the gain so that most of it is on 0 dB. And the advantage of this is that I've got an optimum level. It's not too quiet, it's not too loud. I've got a further 24 dB of what's known as headroom before distortion starts to happen. Now this is something that you get on most analog desks, not interfaces, unfortunately. So with an interface, you would have to kind of almost predict the headroom so it doesn't add distortion, because distortion at a digital stage, if you've clipped the converters on your sound card or interface, is going to sound terrible. So I will show you how we can set it up if we didn't have metering on our mixer or interface. So if I press the PFL button off, the sound goes away, and now I'm going to bring the fader up, and we can control the volume with the fader. So gain is setting up pretty much the input volume, and then the volume is controlling the output level. So we're going to now take that setup technique and we're going to apply the level into the computer. So there is our new bass track. I'm going to first of all select the input, which is that one, and I'm going to input monitor it here. And now if I press play, we will start to see an input level coming into here. It's, around about -22 23. Yeah, it's pretty close. It's minus 22 dB, and we're going to set this to about minus 10. That way we've set 10 dB of headroom on our interface, so that way we've got margin if the person plays a lot louder than we thought. Because when musicians when you're asking them to give levels, they never ever do it the same level once they start performing. They always go louder. So I'm going to bring this up, increasing my gain, and that's about minus 10 dB. And if we go back to our mixer, you'll also see it's around there, my 0 plus 6 dB. So we know we've got plenty of headroom on our mixer, but we've also set plenty of headroom on our recording sessions. And when you're recording in 24-bit, you've already got extra dynamic range, so you don't need to hammer it as hard as you would do, say, for example, with 16-bit, because you can always use post gain within your DAW to increase the volume if it's a bit quiet. A bit quiet is better than too loud and it's clipped and sounds distorted. So now I'm going to show you how changing your gain and your volume, you can use the two in a way that is totally different, and a way of being able to drive the gain, change the tone radically, which can work wonders depending on the genre and the style of music that you're working on. This is something that you can do on a SSL or a Neve or an analog desk, or a preamp that gives you an input volume and an output volume. Because if all I did was increase this, but didn't control the level going into the interface, I would just be clipping and distorting it. And whilst it might sound great in here, it will sound terrible in your DAW, or in the case of if you're monitoring through your DAW, it's going to sound terrible and it won't give you the sound that I will be able to get with this. So this is something that you would benefit from going to a studio where they have the equipment that will give you this variety of sound. It's a lot more difficult if all you have is an interface. But let me show you why sometimes it's worth paying to go to studios and work with their engineers, because they can show you these tips and tricks, and more importantly, they've got the equipment to show you for yourself, and you can put it on your own records. So we know that this is a optimal level, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this down, and I'm going to start to drive this. And if you look at our master fader, we're still at about 0 plus 6 dB. And you can hear quite a different tone. We back it down. It's a bit of a joggle, this. So low gain, high volume, low volume, high gain. That sounds pretty cool. Now I've turned my preamp almost into a distortion unit by increasing the gain, which has added all those harmonics. So now we are going to set our audio interface up so we can record that tone with that amount of gain, but not overload our converter or our interface. So there is our new track. I've armed it, and we are now going to introduce that distortion onto our signal path, but not overload our input on here. So there you can hear, we've gone from no distortion, really clean. It was still around -10, and we've gone up to We've introduced a lot of gain, a lot of harmonics, but the volume coming into Pro Tools is exactly the same. So that way we are not clipping our converter and we're recording the sound that we're hearing, not adding loads of digital noise. So there you go. As I said, you can vary the sound quite considerably, but also at the same time, now you know how to set up a good signal to noise ratio, how to gain structure correctly, and also give yourself margin for those times that it can be a lot louder than you're anticipating, and you don't end up clipping or distorting your analog to digital interface at that point, because digital distortion on the whole sounds horrendous unless you want it for a particular effect. But if you want nice clean vocals, setting your gain structure correctly, like we demonstrated, with one of our previous ones, looking at how to get a good sound out of a rubbish mic, can work wonders. So if you have anything else that you would like us to answer, write in the comments beneath, smash the subscribe button, bell thing, and we will see you on the next Technique Tuesday. Stay safe out there and see you again.